Antibiotic resistance, the global crisis you're not hearing about. Imagine a world where a minor scrape leads to a life-threatening infection, where surgeries, childbirth, even routine medical treatments become perilous, not because of medical errors, but because the medicines we rely on no longer work. This may sound like a dystopian future, but it's closer than you think. It's the silent global crisis of antibiotic resistance, a catastrophe quietly unfolding while the world looks the other way. Today, we will uncover the truth about antibiotic resistance, how it impacts all of us, and what we can do to stop it. To understand the gravity of this issue, let's first clarify, what is an antibiotic? Antibiotics are medicines designed to eliminate bacteria causing infections. They've been nothing short of revolutionary, saving millions of lives since their discovery. From treating pneumonia to preventing infections during surgeries, these drugs have enabled modern medicine as we know it. But there's a catch. Over time, bacteria evolve. They adapt. And when antibiotics are misused or overused, bacteria develop resistance to these drugs. This means illnesses we once easily cured, like strep throat or urinary tract infections, could again become untreatable. Resistant bacteria, sometimes called superbugs, are essentially immune to the antibiotics designed to kill them. Unlike other medical threats like pandemics or visible diseases, antibiotic resistance creeps in quietly. It doesn't make the headlines until it's too late. But right now, it's happening, and the consequences could be devastating. Let's talk numbers. Antibiotic resistance currently accounts for over 1 million deaths annually worldwide. Projections warn that by 2050, that number could skyrocket to 10 million deaths per year, more than cancer and diabetes combined. Imagine routine medical procedures, a C-section, chemotherapy, or even treating a scraped knee, becoming high risk because antibiotics fail to work. Already we're seeing this play out. Resistant infections are making hospital stays longer and more expensive, with outcomes often grim. This isn't just a problem for developing nations. Resistant superbugs don't respect borders. Traveling, trading, and global migration allow these bacteria to spread at alarming rates. Antibiotic resistance is a global crisis, and we're all at risk. Despite its staggering impact, antibiotic resistance barely makes the news. Why? First, this is an invisible threat. Unlike pandemics with immediate symptoms or climate disasters captured on camera, antibiotic resistance progresses slowly. It operates behind the scenes, only gaining attention when catastrophe strikes, like an outbreak of a superbug resistant to all forms of treatment. Second, its complexity makes it hard to communicate. Explaining bacterial mutation and drug efficacy doesn't command the attention sensational headlines demand. Yet complexity doesn't negate urgency. If anything, it makes the need for action more critical. Finally, there's the issue of accountability. Responsibility for this crisis is diffuse. Governments, corporations, the agricultural sector, healthcare industries, and individuals all contribute to the problem. With no singular entity to blame, action continues to stall. You might think, I don't even use antibiotics often, how does this affect me? The reality is that antibiotic resistance impacts everyone, even those who've never taken a single pill. Here's how. Imagine undergoing surgery and developing an infection. Without effective antibiotics, your recovery becomes a game of chance. Or think about childbirth, a marvel of modern medicine made safe with protective antibiotics. Lose them, and suddenly the risks to mother and baby increase exponentially. Moreover, superbugs don't just affect people, they plague agriculture too. When livestock are pumped full of antibiotics to make them grow faster or to prevent disease in crowded conditions, resistant bacteria can spread from farm to table. These bacteria can end up in your food or worse, become the ones causing untreatable human infections. So whether we see it or not, antibiotic resistance lurks in every corner of our lives. This crisis isn't a natural disaster, it's one we created. Here's how. Overprescription in healthcare. Antibiotics are often prescribed unnecessarily for viral infections like colds and flu, which they're powerless to treat. Why? Sometimes doctors overprescribe due to patient demand or diagnostic uncertainty. 2. Misuse in agriculture. In farming, antibiotics are widely used not to treat sick animals, but to promote faster growth or curb disease in unhealthy living conditions. This overuse contributes significantly to resistance. 3. Individual misuse. Many people misuse antibiotics at home, taking leftover meds without a prescription, not completing the full course of treatment, or using them for illnesses that don't require them. 4. Poor global regulation. In some countries, antibiotics are sold over the counter, enabling rampant self-medication. Weak regulations only accelerate the spread of resistance. The situation is grim, but the future could be even bleaker. Without intervention, we're looking at a post-antibiotic era. This means diseases like tuberculosis, which had been controlled, could make a deadly comeback. Surgeries like organ transplants would become highly risky, perhaps impossible due to uncontrollable infections. The economic toll would also be catastrophic. Infections caused by resistant bacteria increase healthcare costs by requiring prolonged hospital stays, more intensive care, and expensive alternative drugs. Left unchecked, antibiotic resistance could thrust us into a global health crisis, with consequences far surpassing today's challenges. Now that we understand the stakes, let's discuss solutions. Tackling antibiotic resistance requires both individual action and systemic reform. Use antibiotics responsibly. Only take antibiotics when prescribed by a healthcare professional. Never self-medicate. 2. Follow prescriptions. Carefully, complete your full course of treatment even if you feel better halfway through. Stopping early allows bacteria to survive and develop resistance. 3. Prevent infections. Good hygiene practices like regular hand washing reduce the risk of infections, decreasing the chances of needing antibiotics in the first place. 4. Stay informed. Educate yourself and others about the dangers of misuse. Knowledge is the first step toward change. Regulating agricultural use. Governments must impose stricter regulations on antibiotic use in farming, promoting healthier livestock management practices. Improving diagnostics. Developing tools to quickly distinguish bacterial infections from viral ones can reduce unnecessary antibiotic prescriptions. Investing in research. Pharmaceutical companies need support to develop new antibiotics and alternative treatments as resistance to existing drugs grows. 4. Global policy collaboration. Antibiotic resistance is a global issue requiring coordinated action from all nations to regulate usage and prevent the spread of superbugs. Antibiotic resistance may not seem urgent today, but its threats loom large, endangering lives and undermining modern medicine. Scientific advancements alone cannot solve this crisis. It requires societal awareness and collective action. Speak to your friends and family about antibiotic resistance. Advocate for policies that preserve the effectiveness of these life-saving drugs. Support campaigns and organizations working toward research and systemic change. This is a battle we can't afford to lose. Together we can prevent the world from sliding into a post-antibiotic era. The time to act is now. Will you take a stand before it's too late? Let's resolve to protect antibiotics, for ourselves, for our children, and for generations to come. Antibiotic resistance may be a silent crisis today, but with your voice we can make this issue impossible to ignore.